You're listening to the League Bound Podcast.
He could be a crazy prospect.
Is arguably one of the best players in all of basketball.
Whatever happens, please, for the love of God, do not take another big man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the League Bound Podcast, where we break down the best draft prospects and the rising stars of the NBA. I know I'm excited. I'm your co-host, Branden. I'm here with my guys, Jake and Cameron. How are y'all feeling about the return of the college season?
Man, it's been really exciting. I mean, all these guys we've been talking about in the preseason, I feel like, have been balling out since the beginning. So I'm excited to break it all down today.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got the NBA going at the same time as college basketball. Feels like it's been forever since we got to see real college basketball that counts. So I'm excited, ready to talk about some of the best players that we've seen so far.
And I just have to say, the freshmen right now, they are hooping right now. And I don't know how it was last year. I don't remember how it was. But it feels like we didn't have this many guys going off to start the year. And it's just the first game right now.
Yeah, it definitely felt like last year's freshmen got off to a little slower start. I know Jacoby Walter had a good game kind of early in South Dakota. But other than that, I feel like it was like almost a month into the season before guys really got their footing going, or at least a couple weeks. I know Rob had a good game early, but as a collective, I felt like that class took a while to get going. This class came out the gate all guns blazing. They seem like there's been no adjustment from high school to college for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, outside of one of the top guys that we'll talk about a little bit later on, it's been pretty much everyone putting their best foot forward to start, starting with these Duke freshmen, Flagg and Knueppel. I mean, the offense looks incredible, and I don't know if Duke's going to lose that many games this year, because both of them pretty much carrying that Duke team that's so deep, so much experienced talent. They looked really impressive.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like about their roster, and they were talking about a little bit on the broadcast too, but they done a good job of bringing in like transfers, and they have a good mix of veterans and younger guys. And I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think, especially when we're seeing now in the college basketball era, having retention is so important. I feel like the way their roster is constructed, it definitely kind of maximizes some of the potential that they have.
Yeah, they're like extremely deep. Like they have guys that are barely even getting garbage time minutes that would most likely start at a lot of places in the country. Like Isaiah Evans barely is getting burned, and I feel like he was recruited by teams that were going to just give him the keys to the offense. So they have just a boatload of talent. They look like, they kind of, in a way, remind me of like those old Kentucky teams that just like top to bottom, 12 deep, everyone's good. There's kind of no one that you can leave off of or help off of. Like just a team that if you catch on the right night, it's going to be a very long game. So,
and I feel like the way they play too, it's very, I wouldn't say there's necessarily a person that they favor, even though Flagg and Knueppel will probably be their go-to guys on a night, but it feels like they're not afraid to share the ball. And even Flagg, I was talking about this before the pod, but something that's really jumped out to him is just how well he's getting everybody else involved. And I think that's something great to have from your best player.
Yeah, I feel like if they had such a deep roster like this, but then Flagg just wasn't sharing the rock, it would just completely eliminate the benefit of having that much talent. But he seems so comfortable in the offense, and guys like Khan are sitting in the corner and he can just swing it out with one hand on a drive, and their offense just works so efficiently. They're getting open shots. I know Cooper was only 6 of 15, but throughout the rest of the season, I don't think that's going to be the norm. 6 for 15 isn't bad, but for his standards, like, you can expect more from him, I feel like.
Yeah, he can definitely stand to get just a little bit more efficient from the first game, but it's like your first college game. Like, you have some room to grow. I know me and Brandon was kind of talking about this before the season. Like, I think you can expect a lot of games from Cooper where the numbers don't necessarily just jump off the screen. Like, I think it's safe to say I don't think he's going to average 20 this year. I just think there's too much talent on that team for really any one player to average that many points. I feel like their leading scorer will probably be around like 14 to 15 points. And I don't think Cooper is necessarily the leader in the doghouse at this moment to lead the team in scoring. However, I expect him to stuff the stat sheet in a lot of other ways. I think he's someone who's going to lead them in, like, be one of the tops in rebounds, one of the tops in blocks, one of the tops in steals. And It'll be interesting because there's definitely other guys around the country like Ace Bailey, Will Riley, who we'll talk about later, that have the opportunity in the offense set up for them to put up pretty big numbers. And it'll be interesting to see if GMs stick with them or go for Cooper just because of his impact on what'll probably be one of the most winning situations in college basketball.
Yeah, I feel like Cooper Flagg has kind of this unique opportunity to collect both types of fan bases that you see online, where it's like the stat nerds and also like the that boy nice fan base. He like the eye test type of thing where people are going to see his stats and look at the advanced stuff with him and be like, okay, you see the assist numbers, you see the Duke offense overall being super efficient. And then the people who actually watch the games, they're going to see Cooper Flagg maybe not getting the assist in the stat sheet, but he's swinging it out to the corner that gets another pass deeper into the court that advances into an assist, like that type of stuff, moving the ball effectively and rebounding well. So that I feel like might push him and keep him at that number one spot. But like you said, I mean, Ace Bailey hasn't played yet, but from the exhibition that we saw, like he's going to be putting up shots like crazy.
Yeah. And I know today I don't know if we figured out what his actual injury was. I know they said that he's going to be day-to-day, but we got to see Dylan Harper play a little bit of time on his own. And one thing that's jumping out for me is it's only been 2 games, but I think it's very clear that the shot is something that's going to be a bit of a work in progress. And I'm kind of interested to see how that progresses throughout the season.
Yeah, I think his shot is, I like the mechanics of his shot. I kind of don't like the finish of it maybe. Like there's something there that's making the shot a little flat at times. And to me, that's one of the biggest things to where he could end up being like someone who gets passed a little bit by some of the other prospects and maybe sliding to like the latter end of the top 5, maybe even to like the top 10. But if he makes shots, like all his other stuff is there to me. Like he's a really good passer. He's not like the elite level athlete, but I think his first step has been a little bit underrated at times. Like I feel like when he catches it, he can get by his guy faster than what you would think from how people talk about his athleticism. Sometimes I kind of feel like the discourse around him makes him seem like he's a minus athlete, like someone who's kind of almost like Luka or something, like how they talk about Luka. But I think he's fair. He's like just average athletic. He's not super athletic, but he's someone that I'm interested, like you said, to see where his jump shot goes. We've seen him struggle at times, but we've also seen times like the McDonald's All-American. No, it was a Jordan game where he just absolutely lit it up and couldn't miss. So I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into his mechanics at some point in time, but now it's just like I just kind of surprisingly flat at times.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. He's a little bit of a taller guard, but his jump shot, he has a super low release point where I feel like it kind of negates that advantage that he has over some of the smaller guards that he's going to go up against. But even when he's not hitting from outside, like he was still super aggressive in transition, 1-on-1, 1-on-2, he's still going through contact, which I feel like that's a positive sign because I feel like if you have a big guard, you don't want him to shy away from contact when he gets to the rim, and that wasn't something I saw from Dylan Harper. So if he starts going 2 of 5, 3 of 5 from 3 instead of 1 of 4, like he's probably going to be the top guard in this class.
Yeah, Brandon, you talked about you're interested to see where his shot lands, but I know we've kind of talked here behind the scenes about guys like Ryan Dunn in the NBA who were complete non-shooters in college and seem to kind of turn the jump shots around faster. Has that kind of changed how you guys evaluate players and like how necessary is it for him to get his jump shot figured out at this moment in college?
I think that is a good point that you bring up, but I think one thing to consider, just thinking about that question, I think for Ryan Dunn, obviously his shot diet's going to look a little bit different because, he's a defensive player. And I think he's in also a unique situation where he has so many great shooters and floor spacers around him, and he doesn't not necessarily have to create for himself. I think the difference with Harper is, though, obviously he's having to create, and I think he's the focal. If he goes into the NBA, he's going to be the primary focal point of an offense, or one of the, I guess, I can't find
like he's like the engine for the offense.
Yeah.
The initiator.
Yeah. So for him, I think it's like you want to see him shooting it at a little bit better of a rate. And I think it also is just going to depend like who's surrounding him too, where it's like, okay, I don't want to get lazy with comparisons, but think of it like Cade Cunningham, for instance, where it's like now he has more spaces around him and Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris. And obviously it's a little bit different, but he has more room to get into the paint. And
his numbers this year have been crazy too. So
yeah, but I think Dylan Harper is a guy who it's going to be just off of what we're looking at right now, I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for him to create shots if he doesn't have good spacing around him. And I would like to see him improve drastically from that era, but I know that that's not what's going to happen. But I think if even he's shooting like 2 of 5, or he just shows that he can be a streaky shooter in the sense of like he has games where he'll shoot like 5 of 5 from 3, and maybe he has one game where he goes 0 of 4. But if he just shows that he can get hot from there and be a threat, I think that's really all he needs.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it a little bit. I feel like sometimes guards in college just don't shoot the ball well. Like, I feel like there's been guards that got to the NBA and shot it a lot better just because it's like the adjustment from going to high school and being the main guy to going to college and being the main guy, where it's like such like a bigger workload and you have to guard. Most of these guys kind of don't guard in high school. He wasn't one of those, but he's having to do both. He's playing both ends at the next level. I want to give it a little bit of time to see how his shot progresses, but I do agree, like, if he doesn't shoot it well, it could hurt his draft stock.
Especially, I mean, Traore isn't shooting it amazingly from deep right now, but if his numbers get a little bit higher throughout the season, there might be a team that's like, we need more shooting in our backcourt rather than just a playmaker and a rim attacker. That could be the difference between Dylan Harper being the number 1 guard or the number 2 guard. So,
yeah, and like, while I do like his athleticism more than a little bit more than other people, he doesn't have like the special type of athleticism that guys like Scoot Henderson have, that GMs will overlook the non-shooting ability to take that early in the draft. So I think he's gonna have to show at least a little bit that he can be serviceable, and you just can't leave him out there.
But speaking of guys who haven't really shot the ball well, obviously VJ Edgecombe in his first game against Gonzaga, 2 of 11, I believe. He had that nasty poster on Mark Few's son, but that was one of 2 made field goals he had. And I think overall, it was just a tough night for the whole team, but especially for him in his debut. What are your guys' takeaways from that?
I have some concerns. I'm not going to kill him because it's early in the season. And, I mean, it's the first game. So, first time playing under the lights against a really good Gonzaga team. Like, it's not like they were out there playing Lipscomb or...
That's what I was going to start with, too, because most of these guys, other than Trey Johnson, they're starting against... I mean, I guess Duke and Maine is not a terrible matchup. Maine has made the postseason a couple times, but like a lot of these guys are starting out with weaker competition.
Yeah, they're playing math teachers, future dentists, guys who aren't going to be in the NBA. And Gonzaga has some guys who could potentially make their way to the league one day. So I'm not going to kill him. But, however, some of the things I was worried about preseason with him, as far as his ability to create his own shot, his handle, and just being engaged for the entire game on the offensive end, it kind of reared his head in that Gonzaga game. Like, 2 points from a position that the offense is kind of built around at Baylor, like Jacoby Walter, Keyshawn George, Davion Mitchell. Like, we've seen guys over the last few years, or Keontae George, my fault. But we've seen guys over the last few years really thrive in Baylor's offense. And even early, like, Jacoby Walter had a really good game early in the season last year. And they're not the same player, but they played that spot. So you know that there was opportunities. There was a couple where he just didn't quite convert, and I'm just worried. I'm worried because he looks small and he's not able to handle, and it's starting to make me question what his ceiling truly is.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's tough to see after one game, one of these guys that comes in super highly touted not have the performance you're looking for. I feel like the spotlight is almost more on how poor he played because of how some of these other true freshmen are playing, guys like Asen Newell, Trey Johnson, Derek Queen. But like you said, the offense usually translates pretty well for these Baylor guards, and I get that it's struggled to find a role a little bit for him. He's probably not used to being a second or third option, even in just his own position group, which I think could be a bit of an adjustment. But the jump shot's got to find a way to go down. 2 for 11 is not going to put you in that top 10 or top 5.
One of the things that I noticed in the McDonald's game was it seemed like Edgecombe was getting all of his offense primarily from the transition, fast break game. And I don't want to say that this is something that I necessarily saw coming, but I think it is something that I kind of took note of, just because college compared to the high school and the NBA game is more methodical, it's slower. And so I think, in a way, I feel like there was going to kind of be a learning curve for him. And obviously it's still possible that that's a reality. But I feel like I didn't expect him to have a first game and just completely struggle like this. Now, obviously it was against Gonzaga. But I think another thing, too, was, and I know you guys kind of talked about it, I think the last time we talked about him, or about how small he is. And I think, to me, I was kind of like, I think he's athletic enough to kind of make up for it. But for me, actually kind of seeing how much smaller he is compared to everybody else, that was, I think, it's kind of, I remember we were having a conversation about Bronny, where it's like, you don't realize how short he is, and then somebody points it out, and it's like,
you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. And that was, I remember watching, because the Trey Johnson was playing right before that. I was kind of curious about Trey Johnson's build coming into it. And he was a lot more filled out. I think his body's just more NBA ready. More NBA ready than I was expecting it to be. And Edgecombe, I think, it's like you're seeing how much shorter he is, and it just jumps out to you more, and it's like, okay. I think Edgecombe just needs to overall develop his skill set, but based on how that first game went, I don't know if he's going to really get that opportunity. I don't think he's going to have, especially he has Jeremy Roach surrounding him. I don't know if he's going to be the guy who's going to be the primary ball handler at all times. So I think that's also going to play a role in his development.
Yeah, with someone like him, I really hope that at Baylor they start to make him do pick and roll, just make him uncomfortable early in the season. Because I think it'll pay dividends later. And it won't take that long to where it's hurting you and you're losing game after game after game. But I think at least early in the season, if this team is going to want to reach, if they're going to reach what they set out to reach with the roster they put together, he's going to have to be that impact freshman guard. And I just think he's not going to get there without the experience and in-game reps of running the pick and roll, taking guys off the dribble, being able to create his own shot and not just shoot off the catch. And I think it would be a good idea for them to use their early season games where the competition isn't necessarily at the highest point and just hammer that home. Make him uncomfortable in ways where it might hurt his stock at first, but eventually, as he keeps going and gets better at it, it'll end up helping him and the team in the long run. I feel like I agree, he definitely looked very small. And the problem is I expected, like you said, we kind of expected maybe there would be some offensive issues, but I at least thought that he was going to be able to be impactful on the defensive end, and that could at least lead to transition and points. The college game is slower and methodical, but also it's a little bit more predictable at times with some of the sets. You can kind of see where the ball is going to go. And he's someone at the All-American game. He was blocking shots, grabbing steals. He just seemed super impactful in that area. And that's something that I think was kind of missing a little bit in the Gonzaga game. I thought that would be a way that he generated at least some points for himself to get his average looking at least serviceable. I
think he had some opportunities. It's just like you said, it wasn't really translating into offensive points. And I think that was just a struggle for their whole team. It's they got one stop, but they would give up another rebound, and it's okay, this isn't going how we want it.
Something to think about with VJ Edgecombe right now is, obviously, we keep saying it, it's only one game, but if he did not have that poster over Mark Few's son, I think a lot of the discussions about VJ would be even lower than they're at right now, because at least with that highlight, his name is still out there. He's the most viral play from that entire game, even though they got destroyed. But I feel like there's, among all of these top guys right now, based on what we've seen, I feel like VJ, because of his prototype and his archetype build, he's almost got the most pressure to perform consistently at an extremely high level, because you look at what his position is at, like a 6'4", maybe 6'5", kind of off guard. That prototype in the NBA doesn't really exist anymore. Most of those guys are point guards that are a triple-double machine like a Russell Westbrook. But that's not really what his game is. And so in order to overcome that in the GM's minds, I feel like he's going to have to be a guy that goes almost 20 points a game, 6-7 rebounds, 2 steals a night. Just the production has to just be completely overwhelming in order to kind of get past that narrative where, you know, what position does this guy really fit into on an NBA team?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not even sure if he's 6'4". He looks very small just compared to the other guards and other like guys that you kind of know their heights and you kind of measure him up and it's like, that doesn't look like he's 3 inches taller than that guy. So once again, we don't want to kill him. Like, it was one game against a really good team. I'm interested to see where the rest of the season goes. He's a consensus top 5 pick amongst almost everybody's board. So interested, definitely watching, but hopefully it goes up from here.
I think one thing to remember, too, is he also played on that Bahamian, that's how you say it, right? Bahamian.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you should just say Bahamas.
He played on the Bahamas national team, and there was a lot of high praise for him. But I want to kind of peel back something you talked about, because I think for guys who are 6'3", 6'4", and under, there's definitely a much higher expectation for them, especially offensively. And I don't want to bring Bronny's name up, but I think a lot of the criticism with him is just offensively. He doesn't, or at least right now, he's not necessarily the type of guy you would want for somebody who's that short. And I think for Edgecombe, I do think you would want a little bit more out of him, and just a little bit. I don't want to say this because I'm not completely down on him, but it's like,
and it's early.
It is early.
Very early.
I like, now that we're all saying this, it feels like we're all very low on him, but I'm not personally. But it just feels like, the point I'm trying to make is that when you're a shorter guard, there's definitely a higher standard that they're held to. And I think I was talking about this before with the guys, like to go number one, you had guys like John Wall, Kyrie Irving. I'm forgetting who the other guy was, but you had those
Derrick Rose.
Yeah, like those guys were elite offensive talents coming out of the NBA. And for Edgecombe, obviously, with him, the wow about him is just mainly defensive and the athleticism. But I feel like he hasn't put it together offensively. And I feel like, where do we think that this notion came that, or why has this ideology came that, like, if you're under 6'5" or 6'4", that offensively you have to be almost an elite player to be a top pick?
Yeah, I just think the NBA is kind of moving, like, it's been moving for a long time now towards, like, a positionless league. Like, it was a really hot button term, like, a few years back, and it's kind of just, you've seen it in rosters now. Like, guys, like, teams will have way more forwards than they do guards, or a lot of forwards over big men. And it's just like, it just seems like teams are valuing that position a lot more. With that being said, I mean, we've seen guards go high in recent history. We had Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepherd last year. We've had guys in recent history like Trey Young and John Morant go. But like you said, all those guys have to be like really high-level offensive talents. And it's just hard to be that size in a league with guys that are much bigger, much faster, athletic, and they're 6'7", and they're 6'8". And not bring anything on offense, like, it's just hard for you to be, like, your defense of impact is kind of capped at a certain point. Like, when's the last time we've seen a guard win Defensive Player of the Year that was under 6'3"? I can't.
The only one I could think of that was close was like Marcus Smart.
But how isn't he like 6'5", something like that?
Yeah, like, he's a bigger guard, and he's built, like, even though he wasn't like the tallest guy, he still had like the body built over a lot of other guards in the league. And it just, your impact is just not going to be as great if you don't bring a lot of offense at that size.
Yeah, I guess obviously that's kind of a pretty easy question to answer, but I guess I also want to kind of get at, do we think that this is kind of detrimental to the game? Because even looking at just last year's draft, we had those two guys, Shepard and Dillingham, who were shorter guards, but they went pretty early in the draft. But I know Shepard got the most minutes he's had a few days ago, but Dillingham has still been struggling to get into the rotation. And there's other rookies who are even taken in the second round getting more minutes than them. So it's just like, do we feel like this is rightfully so, or do we think that?
I think early on I understand it just because it's easier to plug in someone when they don't have to figure out the speed of the game, all the new stuff it takes to be in the NBA, and then they have to overcome such a big size disparity. Like, I think you've just seen it over the last few years, like even the best guards in the league now, their rookie years weren't great. Like some of these guards, if you look at advanced statistics, were the worst player in the league, like their rookie year. Like Darius Garland, numbers hated him his rookie year. Scoot Henderson looked terrible last year. So, like, it just takes longer for guards to develop. And it just seems like teams are rather take the risk on someone that is taller because the upside is just higher if you hit on someone who's 6'10". Like, I feel like GMs feel that prospects like Trey Young have a certain ceiling versus prospects like KD or someone like that at that size that you have to be almost a certain height to be the best player in the league now, it feels like. And it's almost like 6'4" is the cutoff now, it feels like.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kevin Durant, Trey Johnson at Texas just broke the freshman debut scoring output with 29 points. It wasn't a loss to Ohio State. That's a tough one for Texas to take, but I was super impressed with what he did. I mean, the three-point jumper was falling. The shots just overall were falling, 10 of 20 from the field. Might have been moving up his stock quite a bit after opening day.
Yeah, he definitely looked like someone who was just capable of going and get a bucket. Like, his team didn't win, but he seemed like he was getting his in the flow of the offense. Like, he didn't seem like anything was super forced. His game just seems kind of like he's a natural scorer, and he's going to be someone that's going to rack up a lot of points this year.
Yeah, I think they said on the broadcast that he broke the Texas freshman record for most points in a debut game, and I think obviously he's going to have the keys and the green light to do pretty much whatever he wants in that offense. He had 20 shots, I think, 5 of 10 from three-point range. He was a little bit shot happy, but I think for him and where he's at, and if he's your best player, if he's your best player, I mean, give him the green light. Let him do what he wants to do. I mean, I think the difference with Trey Johnson is that I think he's a willing passer too. And he's a guy who can find his teammates. And I think we saw a little bit of that in the game on Monday against Ohio State. But one question I do kind of have is, what do you guys think about, I guess, his individual shot creation?
It was a lot of standstill threes. I mean, catch and shoot. His range looked really good. He had a few of them that were, 4 or 5 feet behind the line, which would have been good, obviously, from NBA range. But I think that his offense could be something that does take that next step, maybe with a little bit more creation. But at this point at Texas, I don't think that's really what they're asking him to do necessarily. So if he gets to dribble the ball a little bit more and maybe put it on the floor, driving to the rim, that could maybe improve what his ceiling could be. But I feel like right now, as like a 6'6", kind of 6'7" wing, like what more could you really ask for? 29 points.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily create the most space like on his shots. Like, I feel like a lot of those shots were good shots just because I've seen him play for a while, like watching him in high school. I watched their game on TV against AJ DeBansa in the Geico Nationals last year. And it just like every time I've seen him, it seems like he's just kind of comfortable with difficult shots. So it's like, it's hard to tell, like, is he just getting to his spot and shooting shots that are comfortable for him? Or is it that that's the only shot he can get to? Like, with the amount of space he creates on his shots, like, he's taller, So it helps that he can just shoot over people, but that'll be something interesting to watch over the course of the season is how much space he creates against higher level defenders.
I think Trey Johnson is the reason I asked that question is because to me he just doesn't seem like a player who's necessarily very flashy, and he obviously had a great performance that first game, but even just handling the ball, he looks a little bit stiff. And I think to me, I've watched a few of his games before, but that wasn't something that really became apparent to me until Monday, sorry. But obviously I think in the offense, like Jake said right now, I don't think that's necessarily what he's going to be asked to do because he was coming off a lot of screens. But I think it could be reflective of his role at the next level. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, you don't always have to be the guy who comes in and creates a whole bunch of space. Like, I think him just being able to, move off the ball, he can play on the ball, but he can also play off the ball. And I think him just having that skill set is great for his long-term value as well.
Yeah, guys like Klay Thompson made a lot of money just living off of coming off screens, being able to catch and shoot, being able to just do simple things like one dribble pull-ups and stuff like that. Like Klay had a 60-point game with like a few dribbles before. Like if Trey Johnson can find that type of role for himself, like obviously Klay Thompson is a very lofty goal to shoot for, but he seems to have real range on his jump shot. He can shoot it off the catch, and it seems like he is comfortable with some shot creation. It's just, like you said, his handles needs a little bit of work. But I'm actually a real fan of his like passing ability out of pick and rolls and stuff like that. I think it necessarily didn't show up that much in the Ohio State game, but when I watched him in high school, it definitely seemed to show a little bit more that he could make the right reads out of pick and roll, find corner kicks really well. Like,
You're good.
I'm excited to see how the rest of his season goes. 29 points is 29 points. So even if his creation looks like it's a little hampered at the moment, Ohio State's a good team. Like, if you're able to get 29 points against them, I'm sure the rest of the year will go pretty well.
Well, yeah, and even when like someone like Paul George came into the league, he was like, I'm pretty sure he came off the bench for a while when Danny Granger was like that main, offensive juggernaut. And he was like a guy that would, shoot on the wing, catch and shoots type offense. And then as he got older, got better, that's when you start to see kind of the smooth, like, people born in 2005 think he's the GOAT type of offense from Paul George. If Trey Johnson has a similar career trajectory to that, where he comes in already as a very good catch and shoot wing scorer and then adds maybe a few kind of shifty, wiggly type moves on the perimeter, like he's already putting up 29. Imagine what he can do with, some coaching, some time to develop, because obviously he's a freshman. He might be one of the best prospects in this class, in my opinion.
I think another way to look at it too is maybe he doesn't even have to necessarily get shifty. That sounds so stupid to say, but maybe he doesn't even have to add like a whole bunch of crazy moves to his bag. But I feel like since he's gotten to Texas, it looks like he's been able to put on a lot of muscle to his frame already. So if he can get strong enough to where he's just able to absorb contact, I don't want to say like Shai Gilgeous because I don't think that they're similar players per se, but if he can kind of become that type of creator where he can just get to the paint at will and not necessarily have to hit you with a bunch of moves to get to what he wants. I think
like a Kyle Kuzma type of scorer, maybe like perimeter jump shot, rise over you near in the rim.
Yeah, and also have the strength to finish at the rim comfortably. Like, I think that creates a lot for him too.
Yep. And speaking of tall guards who can shoot, Illinois has a freshman, Will Riley, who arguably had the best freshman debut that we've seen so far. 31 points in a matchup against a team that's not that great. But did you guys get to see his game, and what did you guys think?
Yeah, he looked really good. I mean, similar to Trey Johnson, like that three-point shot was looking really good. The efficiency was insane. Obviously, he's not going to keep up 10 for 13 every single game, but he put it on tape, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see how teams start to develop their defense against him, maybe start playing him higher up at the perimeter than they did in this one. But if he can adjust to that and show that he can be, a 20-point-per-game guy in college, like he's quickly rising up the boards as well.
I did not get to see it, unfortunately, because I don't have Big Ten Plus. But what I will say, him at 6'9" and having the skill set he has, I think that alone just creates a very high ceiling for him. And if he continues to have this type of production, and another thing to think about too is that he's playing with another high-level freshman, and Kasparis, I forgot his last name, or I don't know how to say his last name.
I can't say it, but let's just say KJ.
KJ. He's playing with KJ. Right now, I feel like those two have the chance to improve each other's stock just because they're playing in the Big Ten Conference. KJ is obviously a great playmaker. Will is a great shooter. He's 6'9", has a great offensive skill set, has some defensive versatility too. I think that them just playing well together, that could boost both of their stocks.
I think he's only like 17, right? I want to say I saw a post. He was like 17 years old. So if he's that young and he's out here like dominating the collegiate level, that is insane.
I don't know how old he is.
I'm going to look at it because I want to say I heard somebody say, yeah, he's 18.
18?
Yeah, he's 18. Yeah, because I heard somebody say he's like actually kind of old. Like, yeah, he's going to turn 19 in February. So he'll be 19 at the time of the draft. And then 20 in his first NBA season.
Damn. I got clickbaited.
Because he reclassed up, but this is supposed to be like his original class, I want to say.
That makes sense. But I think it's just crazy that we have so many European players playing in college right now, too, because we also have Igor Dimin for BYU, and he had a stellar performance. He had 18 points, I want to say, 11 assists. I haven't gotten to review the tape yet. There were so many great freshman performances. It's like, it's kind of insane. But I know I saw a little bit of the highlights too, and I think Dimin was a guy I was pretty high on coming into this year.
Yeah, he shot it better than he's been shooting it in the past. Like, that's going to be his like swing skill for the league, is like how well he shoots the ball. And if he's able to do it like he did in the first game, that will definitely lead to an increase in his draft stock. They have another kid over there, Kane Catchings. Like, this draft is really filled with a lot of wings who can like create their own shot, dribble, shoot. This is like, there's so many wings in this class. Like, Kane Catchings, similar to Will Riley, not in play style exactly, but just in frame and the ability to shoot the ball. Like, 6'9" with that shooting ability, like, that's a real asset in the league. Kind of want to go back to Will Riley just for a second, though. I seen a tweet, and they said he plays basketball like he grew up on LaMelo Ball highlights, which is funny because, like, his style of play is like that a little bit. Like, it can seem erratic at times, but I got a chance to see him at EYBL in Kansas City, and he has, like, a real passing feel. And, like, someone who can run the pick and roll, pass, shoot at that size, he's someone that I'm extremely high on. I'm almost like a little concerned about how high. Like, I'm starting to inch him towards VJ Edgecombe's 5 spot, but pump the brakes a little bit. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. But I want to see where it goes. Him and KJ seem to play really well together. That team is interesting as a whole. They have, like, Draw Gibbs Lawthorne, I think his name is. He's a really, like, sneakily athletic guard, played at Mount Verde. They have Zamir, a V6 older brother, or his brother. I don't know if he's older or younger, but they have his brother over there. That team is going to be a fun one to watch. I'm really excited for their matchup versus Rutgers. I want to see...
Oh, that's going to be appointment viewing, I feel like.
Yeah, I want to see Ace Bailey and Will Riley go at it and just see...
I wonder if they'll give him that defensive matchup. Like, you think they're going to put those guys in a position where they could get exposed like that on a big stage?
I feel like there's a chance they could. Especially because I feel like Ace...
I think Ace will guard Riley. I don't think Riley will guard Ace.
Yeah. Because I feel like we saw in that game against St. John's, I feel like Ace was... They had him doing a lot defensively, I feel like, at least early on. So I could definitely see that being a matchup with Ace on Will.
I almost feel like, though, with Will Riley, if he's a real dog, like, if he told Coach, like, give me Ace Bailey tonight, I want to put myself on display. If he came out there and, like, not necessarily locked down Ace Bailey, but if he came out there and, like, made it tough for him, like, bro, he'd be soaring up the board.
I have to see it first. his defense is definitely like the point of his game where it's gets a little shaky at times. Off ball, him and Ace kind of have the same problem off ball. They kind of get caught watching a little bit, but that's just a matchup. That's going to be one hell of a game to see.
I can't wait. If Will Riley continues on this trajectory, I can't wait to see the overreactions that come after that game. Because, we get to that point in the season, 2 top prospects, and I feel like you have all the that boy nice watchers like, yeah, he got to go number 1 just because he beat him in their 1v1 matchup. But I feel like just going back overall, I feel like this is a great class. We've got a lot of great guys who showed out week 1, and I think it just bodes well for the season going down the line.
Yeah, we've talked about all these guys, and we haven't even gotten to Ace of Noel yet.
Yeah.
And he had 26 points, 11 rebounds.
Derek Queen had 20 points, 20 rebounds. Like this is one of the best first weeks of true freshmen that I think we've seen in years.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me is that Mount Vernon team was cheating. They need to be arrested for putting that team on the court. All these guys are stars in their own right, and then you have Cooper Flagg, who looks like he's one of the best prospects in the last few years. Now, them having to get out of class and play that team is just like, that's not fair.
Now, we've talked about all these guys, and we've talked now about appointment viewing. Who of the, I think we've listed off like 7 or 8 guys. Who is your appointment viewing freshman the rest of the season from what we've seen in the opening day type performances?
I'll let Cameron go because I want to marinate.
Just because I was high on him going into the year and his style of play is entertaining to watch, I don't think I'll miss another Will Riley game live. I'll probably watch as many as possible.
I think for me, I'm just a sucker for highlights. Obviously, I'm going to watch everybody, but I'm a sucker for highlights. So Edgecombe, I think, has to be up there just because he's got the potential to do plays like that in any given game. But also Flagg, Ace Bailey, those guys, I think those are obvious answers too, but it's it's for a good reason, because Flagg, I think I kind of underestimated his athleticism because I think that game against Maine, he had 2 gnarly posters where he just came down the lane with enthusiasm, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I can't lie. And then Ace, I think he has the skill set where he's hooping and it looks nice, but he's also got the athleticism to put somebody on a poster. So I think for me, those are obviously going to be appointment viewings.
I'm still looking at Trey Johnson. I feel like with Texas, they're obviously going to have some things to work out going 0-1 to start, but the one thing they know they have is a guy that can score the rock, and that is not going to change. So I feel like Trey Johnson, every single game is going to be, he's not going to disappoint and go out there and you're excited for the game and he shoots 9 shots. No, he's getting up 15, he's getting up 20 shots, and there might be games where he's inefficient, but then it's going to be games like this where he goes for almost 30 points on efficient shooting from deep. So I'm just excited for this season, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think the signs were there, with this class, with how good they were, a long time ago. If you just think about it, all the kids that have been number 1 in this class at a different point, Derek Queen started as 1, then Trey Johnson was 1 for a long time, then Cooper Flagg came along. This, I think evaluators all across the country are just
they're drooling right now.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much talent to evaluate almost. And
I think what's cool about it too is you have guys who are kind of all spread out in situations where they're going to have the keys and not necessarily get drowned out. As we're seeing with Derek Queen and Asa Newell, and also Igor Dimon, who's, I heard from the highlights, he was a phenomenal playmaker. I haven't dove into the tape myself. That's another guy I'm also excited to watch, Dimon. But it also feels like there's just a wide variety of skill sets too. There's a diverse archetype is what I'm trying to say of players. You have Derek Queen. We were talking about this before the pod, but he's not your traditional modern day big. He plays at a slower pace.
He's not like Derek Lively. You're not gonna throw him lobs and all that type of stuff. He's like Zebo in a way. He's just big and he knows how to use his body and angles. He gets buckets down low.
And I feel like that's something you just don't really see as much today. And that's why I'm kind of appreciative of Queen. I know there's also been kind of a lot of talk, or I guess not talk, but there's a lot of what's the word?
Discourse?
Yeah, but like people have kind of mixed feelings about him. In a way.
Yeah. There's been a little bit of like variation of where he's mocked at in certain places. Like some places have him not even coming out this year. Some people have him going lottery. And I think a lot of that is just his type of player he is. Like he doesn't wow you with athleticism, but I think he's like one of the more skilled players in the class.
One thing I've learned in the scouting realm, just off of the 2-3 years we've been doing this, is like don't say no to a prospect, because any situation he could find a way to make something shake, and we're kind of seeing that with Edie a little bit too. And I think Queen, has the skill set to. Here I go getting sick with the highlights. But when he hit that Hardaway move as a big man, how often are you seeing that? You are not seeing that often. Like, come on, man. I think there's definitely, but on top of that, he just has a good feel for the game. And I think that alone as a big man is essential to have.
Yeah, so we've talked about all the freshmen that were performing, but to me, it kind of like, I kind of feel for some of the sophomores and juniors that decided to come back this year to like help improve their draft stock, because if this holds, like the NBA values youth. Like it's being young and the potential is like one of the biggest things that gets guys drafted. And like there's guys like Simon Wilcher, like Mackenzie Mbako, like Hunter Salas that came back this year, and I don't know if they'll be able to improve their draft stock if the freshmen keep playing at this higher level.
Yeah, I think I saw before the pod, Mackenzie had like 31 points.
Mackenzie Mbako.
Yeah, and I don't know if the game was even over yet, but I think he's a guy who I know I talked a lot about Jackson Robinson, but he's also another guy who I was monitoring. But it's like, what does he have to do just to go into the first round this year? Because there's so many, like you said, younger guys who are going to get valued because of their age over these older prospects.
Well, even think about like last year with Dalton Connect. He's older than like a sophomore, but he had an insane college season, and in a much weaker draft class, he was like, wasn't he outside the top 10 with the Lakers? So like in a
17?
much stronger class.
Well outside.
Much stronger class, like someone who has a weaker season than Dalton Connect had, like, are they going to get even inside the top 20 first round? Like, that's insane.
And like, I know we haven't talked at all about Liam McNeely. I saw a little bit of their game today. I think he had a solid outing, but it's like, that just shows that there's younger guys on here who we haven't even talked about or who have yet to like have a major game. And it's like, what's going to happen to these guys? And just looking at Tankathon, obviously, Colin Murray Boyle, is a name that's been coming up a lot, and he's a sophomore. And you have Kwame Evans from Oregon, but outside of that, it's like
it's all freshmen overseas players. Like they're kind of getting squoze out. Like it's like if I was like, I feel like players should almost be advised. Like they should have almost been advised last year to go out, because there's a lot more opportunities with teams this year as opposed to what looks like there will be next year. Like the NBA is already like getting deeper and deeper. We have guys who win the top 5 who Rob Dillingham just scored his first points the other night. So let alone when you have a class this talented, this deep with all the freshmen, all the overseas players, I think it's just a hard time to be an upperclassman in college.
Thanks for watching League Bound. Check out our full show right here on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.